Okay, we are live. Welcome, everyone. If you are
Oh,
joining us on this Facebook Live in my group, just say hi, tell us where you're from so we know who's listening. I'm Rena Yudkowski, geriatric social worker and memory coach. Most of you know me by now. So if you're joining us live on Facebook, just say hi, tell us where you're from so we know who's here. And it is my absolute pleasure to introduce Alana Stern. Alana is a ADHD adult coach, and I have learned so much from Alana just from her emails. And every time I read her email, I go, she gets it. She knows what I'm going through. How does she know? And Alana helps a lot of, I think mostly women with
yeah.
the ADHD, but she'll tell you more exactly what she does, who she helps. And we're going to have a great conversation today about how ADD and ADHD impact memory and what we could do about it. And we'll talk about medicines a little. So I'm super excited that Alana agreed to do this. I've been following Alana for a while. We've met a few times. And without further ado, Alana, thank you so much for joining us today.
With pleasure. Thank you for the exciting opportunity.
So tell us how you got into this, what you do and who you help and your background. Tell us a little bit.
Sure. Okay, so I'll start with I'm a life coach for adults with ADHD, diagnosed or not,
Okay.
because adult ADHD and even for kids, it's so much more than just difficulty concentrating. It's not actually a deficit of attention.
Wait, sorry,
It's more like
sorry, we're getting kickback from the Facebook Live. I'm silencing that, but I want to be able to watch comments. So I'm silencing the Facebook and
okay.
just I'll watch the comments. Go ahead. Sorry about that.
So we're just going to clear up a few misconceptions, common misconceptions about the term ADHD, which maybe it's going to be changed in the future because it's not a deficit of attention. It's difficulty managing your attention in the place where it should be. It's not necessary. It's not always hyperactivity. Sometimes the hyperactivity can be sort of in your mind, and I'll talk later through the ages what it looks like through the ages. But it's a whole lot more than just attention. It's difficulty managing yourself to execute actions that would bring you closer to a goal. And that's kind of where the life coaching element comes in, because life coaches help you achieve your goals. So
I like that definition. I really like that. That resonates.
That's right. That brings me actually to the whole next concept of it's becoming clearer and clearer that people with ADHD have difficulty with executive function, which are these brain skills that allow us to execute. What is executing? In the short term is getting stuff done. And in the long term, that's achieving your goals. When you take action, you achieve your goals. So I work with my clients to build supports for their executive functioning. And then we practice these supports until they become skills, until they're internalized, so that they can achieve their goals. And if I can talk for a minute more just about
Sure.
What does the whole thing about adult ADHD, because it was believed a while back that you grew out of ADHD and that it was just a childhood disorder. But recent research has shown that about 70% of adults who have ADHD don't even know that they have it. And this, I'm assuming the numbers are slowly lowering as the awareness is getting higher, but this leads to things like low self-esteem, underachievement, underemployment, marital or relationship conflict, and a lot of anxiety and depression for under or misdiagnosed ADHD. To kind of encapsulate, to show you exactly what I do, one of the top ADHD experts says that ADHD is not so much a difficulty knowing what to do as it is doing what you know. That you know what you want to do, you know what you should do, but you can't get yourself to do it.
Oh gosh, that resonates.
Right. Yes. So I would work with my clients it was kind of a 3-stage journey. First of all, I call it master your mind, which is getting to know what works for you because the things that work for you are not necessarily the things that are going to work for neurotypical people. You know, these stories where people say, well, just do it. What's wrong? Why can't you just do it? Why can't you just make yourself do this? It doesn't work that way. The ADHD brain is like a different operating system, and you have to build your own manual. So we write the manual for yourself. We then slowly start to take control by building habits one step at a time, so that you can take consistent and effective action. And then the final stage is to maintain this state where you are thriving with ADHD.
Wow.
Doing well with it.
That is such important work. And I bet there are a lot of people that need this. That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
So do you work mostly one-on-one, or you also do groups? I know you also do groups. But...
Yeah, I work a lot one-on-one, a lot with women, because it's not I found myself working with women because it looks really different, and I'll talk about that soon. The ADHD manifests differently in women. I also work with men. I'll explain to you when I explain how I got into this, why I chose to work with adults, even though I've been in education with kids for 20 years.
Yeah.
I'll just explain quickly my model.
Yeah.
How I see executive functions, to show you how a coach can help you with that. There's different models of what exactly are these brain skills here. I'm doing this because they're in the prefrontal cortex of the brain. Yep. That people with ADHD have difficulty with. And I see it as I said, difficulty executing, difficulty getting stuff done. I see it as 4 parts to getting stuff done. The first is you've got to prepare to get stuff done. Then you've got to get started. Then you've got to manage yourself while you're doing it. And the 4th stage is following through to the end. And each stage there's different skills. For the preparation skills, you've got to remember, which I'm sure is all the things that you talk about, these memory skills. That's where memory comes in. You've got to remember what you intended to do, organize your thoughts. Working memory is something where you're using points, you're using your memory while you're manipulating things in your mind. That's called working memory. So you have to remember what you went into a room for. You have to organize your thoughts, your actions, and reflect on different ways that you can different outcomes or possible ways that you can handle a problem. Prioritizing, knowing what to do first, what's more important than other things. That's also, all these thoughts you're moving around in your head, in your memory. And breaking down large projects into smaller parts. That's the planning. So in the preparing stage, there's sort of 3 steps. It's remembering, prioritizing, planning. The next stage is getting started, and that's the opposite of procrastination or avoiding, just starting, task initiation, starting when you intend to start.
I'm an expert procrastinator. Expert.
You have difficulty with task initiation. We practice different ways of how do we say, reframing things, because if you say I'm terrible at getting started, or you say I have difficulty with task initiation, it has a different feeling to it.
Yeah.
The stage of what is it when you manage yourself while doing, what are the things that you have to manage? You have to manage your time. You have to be aware of time passing. You have to manage your focus, your attention, manage distractions. You have to manage your actions. Some people are impulsive, and some people are on the opposite end of the spectrum. They overthink things, and it prevents them from acting. And you can get to something like analysis paralysis, where you overthink things. And then the final stage, the following through, is either finishing up with the one thing that you're doing, or over the long term, being consistent, maintaining these things. So these are the things that I encourage my clients
Yeah.
to work on with me.
Amazing. That sounds really like a good, it sounds like an amazing transformational process that if people could get through all that, they can really change their executive functioning and function a lot better.
It's a skill that right.
Yeah.
That's what I say. It's skills, and skills you build by practicing.
Yeah.
The skill. So in coaching, most of the work is done between the coaching sessions where you're
Right.
actually taking the skill into your life and practicing it.
So how did you get into this?
So as I said, for 20 years, I'd been in education. I've been teaching in the classroom. I have been reading, I still do this a little bit, working as a reading specialist for children with dyslexia, ADHD, and other learning difficulties. And a few years ago, I started to become very frustrated with the fact that I could not reach and teach my students with ADHD in the same with the skill set that I could see was working for neurotypical students. And at the same time, I had a daughter and then a son who were diagnosed. My husband has been diagnosed since childhood too. And I originally thought that I would certify as an ADHD coach for the benefit of my students and my own children. And then during my internship, I took a few adults clients, and I became fascinated with how the ADHD brain works. Also, I also see this in children with ADHD, but in the potential that lay in this condition with this incredible creative energy. And what was different and refreshing about adults was I saw that they had the power of their life in their own hands in a way that children don't. And I found that as someone who is good at making order out of other people's chaos, not necessarily of my own, I very much enjoyed collaborating on on an equal level with a peer, with another adult, to do things to build the gap between their present performance and their true potential.
Wow.
History.
Wow. But you're saying you work with kids and adults. You really do both.
Yeah. Yes, I used to coach kids too. I bring the coaching in when I do remedial reading. I'll bring coaching philosophy and coaching approaches to that. But the life coaching, there are many excellent ADHD coaches for children and for teens, and it's very needed.
Yeah.
I just find what lights up my passion right now is coaching adults. And I still enjoy working with children, and that's where I do my remedial tutoring reading.
Got it. So let's talk a little bit about aging. What happens as we age with ADD? Because when I work with memory, one of the first things I do is talk about focus and techniques to focus, because people blame their memory on, it's actually not memory, it's focus. When you go to the fridge, open the fridge and can't remember what you came for, which is the name of one of my webinars, what did I come to the fridge for? That is not a memory problem. Our minds got to, either we had internal distractions or external distractions between the thought, I need the milk from the fridge, to when I get to the fridge. So, clarify for us, ADD, memory, aging, give us some help.
Sure. So I will take you on a journey from childhood to seniority with ADHD. So even in childhood, these typical symptoms that we've come to associate with ADHD, the fidgeting, the high energy, the impulsive, unable to concentrate, it's actually a very skewed and incomplete view of this disorder. And it's based on the fact that most of the research was originally done on these 7-year-old little boys who were bouncing off the classroom walls and draining the teacher's energy. So they were the ones that were noticed. The children with ADHD who were daydreamers, where really the hyperactivities inside your head is those people were missed. They weren't noticed. Little girls, sometimes they're more hyper talkative than hyperactive. Girls were conditioned to sort of toe the line more and expected to toe the line more than boys. So they didn't act out as much. Girls with ADHD tend to internalize their struggle, whereas boys with ADHD tend to act out their struggles. So all this, underdiagnosing or misdiagnosing of girls with ADHD led to a lot of them being diagnosed with anxiety and depression.
Mm-hmm.
And you see that girls are often just as successful, girls with ADHD are just as successful in school, even boys, some boys as well, as their peers, but it's just, you're not seeing the 400% effort underneath that it's taking. Any child or adult with ADHD can focus if they want to. I hear parents saying, but I can see him sitting with Legos for 4 hours. He can't have ADHD.
Yeah.
And it's not that, it's that we can focus if something is stimulating, if it's that, and what does stimulating mean? Interesting, novel, challenging, or if you're passionate about it.
Yeah.
And that's really where a lot of the life coaching plays a big role in ADHD, is how do we build a life that you are passionate about, so that you can keep your stimulation level up.
Alana, I always tell my husband, I could do anything I set my mind to. And I really believe that.
Yeah.
But cooking supper for some reason is really hard for me.
Okay, here we go. Exactly. This is what I'm going to talk about now. In adulthood, right? What does this need for stimulation look like? It's going to look like if something is not, if it's mundane, repetitive, or unstimulating, you're going to have difficulty getting started, staying focused on it, and completing it, seeing it through to the end. What does this look like long term? It's going to look like withstanding distractions that give you more immediate gratification for working towards a long-term goal. Now, let me just say that I believe that ADHD doesn't have to be a disorder. And I think, Rena, you've done incredible things to like serve your long-term, to work towards your long-term goal.
Thank you.
So it doesn't have to be a disorder. It can be a condition, and its characteristics can be harnessed for the positive. But in people where this is a disorder, where it is causing dysfunction, where it's causing difficulty, you're going to see, as we move up from childhood to adulthood, when you move up from childhood to adulthood, your expectations to manage yourself are higher. If you think about in grade school, we didn't have to manage our time. We were told, when do we eat? When do we play? When do we work? And as you go to middle school, you're expected more to manage yourself. And that's where often, like, the girls are starting to struggle more, and they get diagnosed then. And then anyone's executive functions only really reach maturity in your early 20s. And people with ADHD have a lag of about 30% developmentally for their executive function. So in young adults, what is this difficulty going to look like? It's going to be difficulty adulting, which is the difficulty with acts of daily living, like budgeting, cooking. If you think about cooking, there's all that planning and buying and coordinating and putting together, keeping a room or a house clean, managing all your college or university work. And then there's this really interesting thing that people are discovering now, is that it's becoming apparent that hormones, and especially estrogen, has a direct positive effect on your executive function. So that whenever your estrogen fluctuates or drops, you are going to see a difficulty in women's ability to manage themselves. Basically, when estrogen levels are high, we function better. And when estrogen levels are low, we're going to struggle more to manage ourselves and get stuff done. And that's another reason why the girls were starting to get diagnosed more in middle school, because that's when puberty starts and when their estrogen starts fluctuating. This also explains this inconsistency factor that we see with ADHD, whereas you could say, I can't understand, last week I felt so on my game, I could do it, I can do it, so why can't I do it now? And that's this, why it must be willpower. It must be, I don't have enough willpower now, and it's not about willpower.
Mm.
In fact, there's some women who in consultation with their doctors, I'm not suggesting this or anything, they adjust their medication dosage according to where they are in their cycle.
Wow.
And if you think about that, this goes for all life stages where estrogen levels drop: postpartum, perimenopause, and menopause. And we are now seeing that women with ADHD in their 40s, 50s, and up are reporting a significant decrease in functioning with time management, procrastination, working memory problems, feelings of overwhelm, greater disorganization. And just by the way, there's also research showing that testosterone also positively affects executive function like estrogen. So men over their 50s are also reporting the same kind of difficulty. So I hope I gave you a little picture.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And then and then as we age, like after menopause, people that had lifelong ADD, whether they realized it or not, then what happens? Then they struggle with their memory, right? Or it looks like that.
It looks like memory struggle, right? I see the executive functions, and memory is one of them, as a big bowl of spaghetti. And really, like when I'm talking about distraction or difficulty getting started, it's like pulling apart one strand at a time. But really, we don't eat spaghetti like that. And if you have trouble with your memory, you're going to have trouble getting stuff done because you don't remember why. If I go in the kitchen to clean the kitchen,
mm-hmm.
and then I see something in the living room that I want to fix up, and then I see the hose pipe is leaking, and that, the whole chain of distraction, that's a memory issue. That memory's playing into that. If I feel really excited about a new project and I take it on, this is also something that's often an ADHD thing, where the excitement, with novelty, with taking on a project, and then it fizzles out and you don't stay consistent with it. You have difficulty remembering those feelings of excitement in the beginning to persist towards a goal. Whenever the reward is intangible, I think this is also all about memory. Is the same expert, Russell Barkley, calls ADHD future blindness,
Mm-hmm.
where he says that people with ADHD have a difficulty conceptualizing the future. Whereas if you imagine people standing on a seashore, neurotypical people can see that ship coming over the horizon, can see it right over there. And people with ADHD, the ship has to be right by the shore for them to see it, to feel it. And I think that's also holding in memory this reward for this goal while you're going about your life. So I think memory plays a part. Also, it plays a part in preparing to get stuff done, in starting, in managing yourself while you're doing it, and in following through to the end. It impacts all of them.
So let's talk for a minute about medication.
Yes.
I know with kids, I think they're very quick to put kids on medication these days. I don't really have an opinion, yes or no. I'm curious about adults that are, let's even say over 50, that are struggling, and let's say they've struggled for a long time. What's your experience with adults going on medication?
Right. Okay. So I want to say something before I forget.
Yeah.
Not
go ahead.
No. Before I forget. And of course I already forgot it, but
that's okay. It'll come back to you.
Yeah. You had said medication for adults. I don't remember. Okay, so maybe it'll come back to me.
Yeah.
Here's how, on the one hand, I feel like when you can find the right medication and the right dose, it can be very effective in managing ADHD symptoms. In the same way, a lot of Western medicine manages symptoms.
Right.
You can't cure ADHD. You're going to live with it for the rest of your life, but it can. Yeah, I'll use an analogy to try and explain to you medication's place in managing ADHD. If achieving your goals is like going on a journey in a car and the destination is your goal, I see medication, that effective medication, as a very good fuel that you're putting into your car for a smooth journey, because it's going to help you feel like doing things in service of a goal. What does ADHD medication do? If ADHD is the difficulty regulating dopamine in your brain,
right,
then ADHD medication stabilizes that dopamine level. And dopamine is our feel like it chemical. It makes us motivated. It makes us feel like doing things. And then to stay focused on it until you're actually finished doing it. So you've got that good fuel making you feel good, but you still have to drive the car to the destination.
right.
And that's where the skills come in. You can have amazing focus, but you still got to put your focus on the right thing. You have to, know what you're prioritizing, focusing on the right things, the things that will move your life, that move the dial in your life the best. You still have to be able to break down a plan to get to that place. You still have to manage your time well while you're driving, and you still have to persist over, if it's a long journey, you have to have that staying power, that persistence. So that's how I see the two kind of working together.
Yeah. And I'm sure, like every medicine, they have side effects, and there are probably some contraindicated. I don't know specifically the drugs, but I'm sure some of them are contraindicated with some other drugs that older people might be taking. So you obviously everything has to be, everything's a balance. Everything's a, decision. You got to weigh it out, the pros and cons of any medications.
It also, I think where you are in life also makes a big difference. If you think of children have very little choice of how they can spend their time, and with in terms of what's interesting, novel, and passionate. And once you get to a certain age, if you have the belief in yourself, that self-esteem, that you can spend your time doing the things that you love, and you have that opportunity, you might need it less. College students need ADHD medication because the college education tries to give you a very broad view of things, which are not everything's interesting to you.
Right. It's true.
I think it's like
and you need so much like focus and studying on so many, like they spend so much time learning and studying, and they have a hard time focusing, and it's not stimulating or interesting. It's really hard.
Yeah, it is. On the other hand, it's not just about focusing, because I've seen with my clients that their medication, if your ADHD is dysfunctional and you cannot get yourself to get going in the morning, it can be very effective for that too. It can be very effective for you to just to get the dishes done, and it's not just for studying.
Right. For sure. Okay. So besides medication, I know you have some good coping strategies. Share with us some of your good coping strategies.
So I prepared for you I call it a brain hack for each of the 4 stages of executive function.
Amazing.
So let's start with preparing. Remembering what to do. I'm sure you've got these amazing, you know, all these tips about how to remember what to do. My number one hack for remembering is don't rely on your memory. Don't overload it. Stop overloading it. This world today is so good at overloading our brains. Download, externalize everything that you can. Get it. So I say, get it out of your head and in front of your eyes. And that means lists. That means if you have a wedding to plan, or a big project to do, put it on and a brain dump on paper, plan it all, get it out of your head and onto paper, or nowadays any kind of digital organization system. Don't rely on your head.
I should show you what my calendar looks like. It's every phone call I need to make, every email, not every email, but like, remember to get back to that one, and everything gets written on my calendar.
And especially for people who have hyperactivity here, it just gives you it gives that hyperactivity more room. So that was it. Yes, just externalize it all. Then for getting started, which is a big one, I see my clients have 2 major reasons why they have difficulty getting started on a task. Either it's complex and overwhelming, or it's boring and mundane. So I'll deal with each of those separately. If something is complex, we work on how can you break it down into smaller steps that each step on its own won't feel overwhelming. So, for example, if you have to write a blog, if you have to write an article, writing an article sounds, big and overwhelming, you're going to want to put it off. If you say, okay, so what's the first step? Write the first paragraph, and then you do a gut check. If I say now it's time to write the first paragraph. If you still feel like procrastinating that means you haven't broken it down enough. And is it write the first sentence? If you still can't get yourself to write the first sentence, I've had clients where we've broken down things like sit in your chair, open your laptop, write the title, and you don't have to break down the whole entire task like that. It's just the first few steps to get you over the hump of starting. If I've had clients who's sitting on the couch and they can't get themselves, they want to exercise, and we've done things like put down phone, put 2 feet on the floor, stand up. So try that at home. You don't have to break down everything, just the first few steps.
That's very helpful. Very, very. Anytime I'm overwhelmed, I'm like, break it into 100 steps if you have to, and then just do step number 1. But I like how we said about the email. When I go to or a blog, when I go to write something, it's like very overwhelming to write an email with a lot of information in it, which is what I want to do. But I like that. What if I just write the first sentence? And I know that as soon as I write the first sentence, I'm going to write the second sentence and then the third.
Yes.
But that is so helpful. Thank you. It seems so simple, but it's so helpful.
There's one more thing there as well. It doesn't even have to be the first sentence. You can write a sentence from who said you have to start with the first sentence? You can start with the sentence in the middle.
You're right.
Yeah. Start from the middle. And sometimes it's that's another way to start. Like, what if I started from the middle? Right. Who said I have to start at the beginning?
You're right. That's a good point.
If you're coming to an incredibly messy room and you don't even know what's the first step, who said you have to start at the beginning? Just start in the middle and get see what happens from there.
Yeah.
So that's starting if things are hard, difficult. If things are not are boring for you, and people with ADHD feel, what's the word, boredom, like a physical pain.
Yeah.
I've so many of my clients said being bored actually feels physically painful to me. So here's where I love to harness that amazing creative problem solving in the ADHD brain. And I ask them, how can we bring in a stimulation factor? How can we bring in novelty? Can you do it in a new place? Can you buy a different scented, what's the word, dishwashing liquid, so that or a different brush, novelty there? Sometimes when I'm getting bored if I'm typing on the computer and I'm losing my focus, I'll change the color of the font that I'm typing in into like bright pink.
That is such a good idea. I love that.
I'll choose a color that I love and I'll start typing in that. And there's just little tweaks like that to keep your motivation going.
That's brilliant. I love that.
That's novelty. Interest, if you're doing something that you don't have to use your brain, so bring in something like wash the dishes with a podcast or with a TV show, or iron with a TV show. Or I have a friend who got through entire soap operas in her adult life because she watches the soap operas while she's ironing.
Wow.
Novelty, interest, challenge. Challenge looks like, can I put on a 10-minute timer and see if I can beat the clock for cleaning up the kitchen? Can I see how many X's I can get done in this? Gamifying. That's also. So great. Those are the 3 things that I like to go to for things that are boring: novelty, interest, challenge.
Amazing.
How are we doing for time? But
we're good.
I'm tired. Okay. So that's for getting started. My number 1 tip for managing yourself while you're actually doing something, I don't have it over here now, but I keep it's called a download pad. And you'll keep a little pad of Post-its or a small pad of paper next to you while you're working. If you're moving around while you're working, keep it in your pocket. And you start working on your intended task. Every time a distracting thought enters your head, like, oh, I have to do that also, and this person's calling me. And the problem with people with weak memory is that we act on these things because we're afraid we're going to forget to do.
Yes.
not because they're as important as what we're doing.
Right.
So the minute you feel you have a place to capture that, and do take a minute to evaluate, is this more important and urgent than what I'm doing right now? And for some things, it will be more important and urgent, and then you can go off and do it. But for most things, it's not. You can return back to your work in, safe in the knowledge that you captured it. You don't have to follow your thoughts because you're afraid of forgetting them.
I do this all the time. I keep a post-it here and jot down everything that comes to my mind, because otherwise I'm going in 100 directions while trying to get a task done.
And I think that's where memory really comes into it as well, as maybe it's not that it's a little bit that our attention is moving from place to place, but also that we're worried that we're going to forget.
Yes. That's brilliant. Okay. And
and the final thing, which is staying focused over the long term and staying consistent, is kind of what I said. How can we, when I said in the beginning that people with ADHD are future blind, and they have difficulty feeling the future, is so how can I talk with my clients about what this future reward is, and then how can you keep a tangible reminder of that? So if it's somebody who's trying to lose weight, they would stick up a picture of themselves where they were happy at a weight that they were happy with on the fridge. I had a client who had to do some work that was not stimulating, but that work would allow her to go to the States, and in the States she could meet up with her sisters. So what did we do? We took a picture of her sisters and put it on the desk where she had to do that boring work. And that helped her stay in touch with that intangible goal.
That's great. That's amazing. I love that.
And some people are also, some people are not necessarily visual. So your reminder can be a song. It can be a mantra. It can be tuning into a feeling if you're more kinesthetic.
Yeah. That's fantastic. These are great coping mechanisms. I'm sure you have a lot more where that came from.
It was hard narrowing them down, but those are the ones that can slip off my mind, that I can rattle off.
Those are great. Those are really helpful. Really, really good stuff. Okay. How can people reach you if they want to reach you or work with you in your different offers? Tell us. I know you're on a lot of social media, your website. And after we finish this, Alana, you'll go in, and under the video, you'll put your website and whatever links you want people to have. Great. You'll go into the group and do that. But just tell us, how can people reach you if they want to work with you?
So I have my website's called alanastern.com. So if you can remember my name, and we're probably, Rena, you have tricks for how to remember names, but if you can remember my name, Alana Stern, it's alanastern.com. And there you can see all the services that I offer, one-to-one coaching. I have a group starting, a small group for Jewish women with ADHD, starting 3rd of July. So if you're interested in trying a short group for 6 weeks, I have that. I do EFT for ADHD symptoms, which is also kind of reducing the emotional charge that comes from negative impacts of ADHD symptoms. I'm on Facebook, I'm on Instagram, I'm on LinkedIn, so I'll put that all there.
And it's called, what your thing is called, what do you call Thrive ADHD?
Thrive ADHD. Yeah. My business is called Thrive ADHD. So actually, if you put thriveadhd.co.il, that's also my website. I'll put that all in. I was going to say, and with pleasure, if you feel like you want to get an infusion at the beginning of every week on how to thrive with ADHD, I send out an email. You can get on my email list, and I give you a tip of the week.
Please get on her email list. Alana's emails are really fun. They're fun. They're interesting. They always have fun images and graphics in them.
I like doing. That's one of the highlights of my week is creating my emails for you guys.
Is there anything else you wanted to say that you didn't get to say?
No, I think I covered it.
Okay, you covered some great stuff. It was very helpful, practical. And I'm always tempted to do your groups. I just have to make the time to do it. I have to organize my time better. It's like
my daughter and I, we always walk around saying, you need coffee in order to be able to make a cup of coffee.
Exactly.
We need to manage our time in order to know how to manage our time. I know.
Exactly. I don't see any questions. We have a few people joining us live. I'm going to thank you for joining us live, whoever's there. If you have any questions, you can put them in the chat. If you're watching the replay, just do #replay so we know you watched it. And get in touch with Alana, if you feel like she can help you, which I'm sure she can, and work with Alana. Executive functioning is like pretty basic. And sometimes we don't realize why we're not doing what we're supposed to be doing. Like you said in the beginning, like very undiagnosed, like we don't realize what that anxiety is about, why can't I just get this done stuff? Or why am I forgetting what I need to do next? So a lot of that, what I'm learning from Alana is that a lot of this we can work on. We can put habits into place that work better for us. We can thrive better. That's what I've learned from Alana, both from her emails and from today. And Alana is a wealth of information. Thank you. I really, really am happy you joined us today. And this was a gift to the members in my group that you joined us and gave us of your time. And anyone that's interested, follow up. We'll put Alana's website and links in the comments under this video, and you can follow up with her. Thank you so much for joining us. Let me check one more time and see if there are any questions that came in. Okay, I don't see any questions here. I see some thumbs up. We have someone joining us from Goa, which is amazing. Thanks.
Oh, wow.
Goa. Yeah.
Welcome.
So thanks for joining us. And I hope you learned something interesting. I'm sure you did.
Thank you.
And Alana, thank you for your time. I'm gonna end the live stream and Alana, hang on with me, okay?
Yeah, sure.